So when somebody reaches out to me, their basic premise is, I'm not happy. I want more. I don't know what that looks like. And so what I do is I walk them through a process. And there are two themes. Well, there's three themes mainly that I see. One of them is connection. One of them is creativity. One of them is freedom. And it's interesting because all three of them actually overlap.
Welcome to Soul-Led Creative Women, a podcast for creatively curious women seeking rich, soul-led ways to look after themselves better. I'm Sam Horton, and in this episode, I'm talking with career transition coach and mentor, Andrea Horvath, about her work supporting clients to make significant career shifts and the importance of embracing and honouring your own unique creativity in your work. So hello, Andrea. So excited to have you here today. For those of you who haven't met Andrea yet, she is a career transition coach who helps badass people determine their soul-aligned career or business. She helps bring them into alignment with the work that they came here to do, and then helps them confidently make that transition, even if they have no idea what that looks like or how to get there. Her signature framework helps her clients connect with who they really are at their core and teaches them how to make decisions that are in alignment with who they are and what they actually want. Through that process, a new career vision is born and then created. Andrea was a certified professional accountant in the corporate world, managing budgets between 10 and 20 million, and realized she was totally unhappy and unfulfilled. By all outside appearances, she was successful, but she felt completely empty on the inside. I can relate. From that place, she began searching for and ultimately finding the answers of how to feel completely excited and passionate about her career again. She first started her business as a side hustle around her 9-to-5 corporate job, and since then has been able to transition to full-time and do what she absolutely loves, helping other souls step into their power and follow their hearts. Andrea lives in Vancouver, Canada with her 2 teenage daughters, and she is a solo parent. Can also relate to that one. So welcome, Andrea.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So before we get started, I just wanted to paint a little picture around the central topic that we're going to be discussing today. So today's topic is all about the importance of honouring and owning your personal and unique creativity in your work. So to kick this off then, Andrea, we have very similar backgrounds. And for me, the nudge that led me to the work that I do today was a creative calling, I call it. A little whisper, a nagging nemesis, the art in my heart. But it was definitely for me a creative force. So what was it for you that called to you from the depths of your finance career? And how would you describe your experience?
Well, it's interesting because I've had a very interesting relationship with creativity. And I'll dive into that in a little bit because I would have not called it creativity. I call it, back then, it was more about expressing myself just because of some things that happened in my past. But it was more about expressing myself. A lot of it was about freedom, really true freedom in a lot of different ways. And also just wanting to create change in this world. My soul has always, ever since I was a child, I've always just felt like there's something I'm supposed to be doing in this world. So it was a number of things, but creativity actually, when I look back and when you look back, you can start to see the pieces a lot more clearly. It really was an integral piece. I just didn't really quite identify it at the time, which is really interesting.
So what would you say the most common themes are for women who desire this change in the middle of their career?
Well, when they come to me, they don't know. So when somebody reaches out to me, their basic premise is, I'm not happy. I want more. I don't know what that looks like. And so what I do is I walk them through a process. And there are two themes. Well, there's three themes mainly that I see. One of them is connection. One of them is creativity. One of them is freedom. And it's interesting because all three of them actually overlap. Because when I think about freedom, I think freedom to express yourself. Freedom to create what you want. Like they completely overlap. However, when they first reach out to me, that's not what they would say to me. It's only through the process that we discover that's part of what they're missing in their career, which is fascinating. And it's so interesting that we're having this conversation because I think it's a really important topic. We're missing the level and parts of creativity.
Sure. And would you say that that's actually really about the connection we have with ourselves, though? So, as part of that, it's losing touch with who you really are.
I think it's a number of things. What I've come to, and connection with yourself is 100% a
Mm.
piece of that. It's connection with the company. It's connection with your management. It's connection with your team. It's connection with your work. So many people feel like a cog in the wheel, right? They're just a number and they feel that. And well, there's no creativity. If you're a cog in the wheel, there is a complete lack of creativity. And so there's a complete disconnect. They're just going through the motions, which is what I was certainly doing in my career, in my job,
Yeah,
going through the motions. So that's what I said. There's a lot of overlap between all of these, and we can't just kind of pick one apart.
sure. And would you say that, I mean, as we've developed our careers, we're obviously very, very good at what we do. And a lot of it's on autopilot, really, in the end. So it's sort of like we don't even have to think about the work. And for me, that was, one of the things where you just feel like you're actually, it's a very vacant space to just be sort of doing stuff on autopilot all the time and to be doing stuff well, without having to think about it too much.
Autopilot's a term I use quite frequently because I believe the journey is to go from autopilot to alignment.
Okay.
It's really stepping out of it because exactly how it is. You just go through the motions day after day after day, and there's nothing that really jazzes you up. There's nothing that really gets you excited where you can really express yourself and really be you. Because a lot of the corporate world right now, the name of the game is fitting in. And that doesn't allow for creativity.
And impressing others, I suppose, as well. So that fitting in and impressing others.
Yeah. You don't want to stick out too much and be too different,
No.
right? Because when layoffs come along, are you going to be the one that's tapped on the shoulder?
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah. It's an ongoing cycle. Okay. So I guess what strategies or processes do you recommend to women seeking to incorporate more of themselves into their work and more creativity into their work, ultimately, even if they don't know that? I can imagine,
Yeah,
like you said before, that some women just have no idea where to start with this process of really working out how it is they want to show up in their work.
exactly. And that is part of it. So that's why I love this conversation is because it's becoming aware that actually the piece that's lacking is huge. Now, when I work with someone, they've pretty much already gotten to the point where they recognize they're so out of alignment, they need to make a larger shift. However, if you are somebody who is finding yourself on autopilot and it's feeling like you're not having the opportunities, because here's the thing too, if you've got a manager who's micromanaging you or an organization that's really very conservative, there actually may not be a lot of opportunities. So you kind of have to be creative to find ways to be creative. Ironically, I mean, I was in corporate, I found little sneaky ways to be creative. So when I was doing a presentation, I would do it completely different. The corporate presentations can be very dry. I always found different ways to do it. In fact, when I would do presentations at big group meetings, I would make them into skits, which sounds crazy. I would color code spreadsheets. I would, you could even do things like put quotes at the bottom of your email. I mean, I would literally try anything to put a bit of me in it. And that's what it honestly felt like. Like I said, I wasn't using the word creativity,
Mm.
but it was to me in my mind at that time, I was putting part of me into everything that I did.
And did you feel exposed though? Like I feel like that's a real contrast between kind of following the rules and then sort of, getting into a space where you're actually experimenting a little bit with how you show up in that space. It must have felt very exposing or yeah. Tell me about your experience with that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, for me, I reached a point where it just became necessary.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to make a career transition. I mean, I knew being an accountant wasn't going to be it for I mean, I just knew overall. However, I've been a single parent for a very long time and I was scared. I mean, I knew by that point I wanted to be a coach. So I had already had the career kind of lined up. I had the training and everything else. So, I mean, I was already at that place where I was like, I've got to get out of here, but I was really, really scared. And so, yes, it was scary to actually be myself.
Mm.
I'm sure people thought I was crazy. It's a very conservative organization with a lot of PhDs and that kind of environment.
You must have got some positive responses as well, though. Surely. Surely
Well,
some people
yes,
are
I
like
think.
amazed by like, oh wow, this is so good.
Well, and that was kind of my hope and my desire is somewhere in this, am I inspiring somebody else out there to actually let it out? Like, join me. It's a lot more fun. I used to do Friday afternoon dance break.
Mm.
Like if it was really, really deadly quiet Friday afternoon, I'm like, come on, you guys, let's do that break. Just something to liven up and just shake up the energy
Mm.
and add a bit of ourselves to it because it just became, it just became very routine.
Yeah. And stifling, I think, it's
Yeah.
rigidity. You've done the same sort of thing every single month for the last, however many years. Yeah. Throw in some wildness in there. It's got to be healthy for the soul.
Throw a bit of ABBA on a Friday afternoon, really shake things up.
Yeah. 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 So in your work then, what are some of the other inspiring and unique ways that women have incorporated this idea of creativity and personality into the work that they're doing?
So when I work with women, like I said, they've reached the point where they realize there's a pivot needed. So what I do is we work together and figure out what kind of creativity, what needs to be added. Because really, when you're feeling like you're on autopilot, you're missing something, right? There's an ingredient that's missing. So what I do is I work together, we figure out what that is, and it involves some sort of a pivot. So it's not so much taking their existing career and trying to change it because there's only so much you can do. Like I said, if you're in an environment or a company or under a manager who really doesn't support a lot of really expressing yourself,
Mm.
there really is limitations you can do.
Mm.
And so for the women I work with, it really is about actually making a slight shift. And what I've also discovered, which is really amazing, is it's like with any relationship, however you are when you first start the relationship, it tends to be how it's going to continue. So I've got clients who they've only made slight shifts in their careers, maybe changed an organization and just refined what they're doing. But from the moment they've gone to an interview, they have shown their real color. They've shown their real selves.
Mhm.
So when they get there, if the company hires them, they already know from the get-go, this company is okay with me being me. But if you're going to an interview and you're putting on a facade,
Mm.
and you're being somebody else, that is not going to be an organization that's going to welcome you. Chances are expressing yourself creatively down the line. So it's really important at the very onset that you find somewhere that's in alignment with that.
Sure. And so is this sort of like small incremental shifts? So not a change necessarily in the job, but just the way you show up in the job that may then give you the courage to change the job. Is that kind of how it works?
It could. There's not one path. There really is not. Some people have tried to be creative, and I've had this happen before too, and they have been literally shut down. It happens. I mean, I wasn't ever shut down. I was never really embraced when I was being creative. So it really depends on where you're at. For a lot of people, what I see right now is they just completely shut down. And they've shut down so much that they've disconnected from themselves completely and that ability to express themselves because they've really just disconnected that connection piece because it's difficult to express yourself creatively if you're completely disconnected from yourself,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So it depends where they are in that process.
Sure. Yeah. It's almost like the permission slip that you write to yourself ultimately. But then, I can really imagine, having worked in corporate, business environment, if people aren't responding to you positively, if you were sort of trying to inject a bit more of you into it, it would be very shame-filling and, a very exhausting cycle to be exposing yourself to. So I can see why that would result in being shut down completely.
And it's challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very challenging. Yeah, I mean, we stay in jobs for a whole number of reasons. But obviously we've made decisions along the way, to end up where we are. Do you know what I mean? So now it's about untangling some of that and making different decisions to move forward in a more authentic way, I imagine. Yeah. I often wonder if entrepreneurship is the epitome of incorporating creativity into your work. What would you say to that?
I believe it is. I mean, creativity is a necessity.
Mm.
It's not just a kind of nice to have. If you're not creative, it's going to be really challenging
Mm.
to survive. I think it's one of the most powerful ways to express yourself, which can be an interesting transition.
Mm.
Because you've gone, especially for someone like myself, who's gone from corporate where its creativity has been stifled to go into now a completely different business where it's needed.
Mm.
It's like one place, kind of fit in. And the next place is actually, no, actually let your freak flag fly, like literally be all of you. But it's wonderful and I love it. So, it's worked really well for me.
Yeah. And would you say, I mean, the reason why I sort of, have that mindset, I suppose, is because the entrepreneurial journey does require a certain depth to it, which actually mirrors the depth that I believe is necessary in true sort of rewarding creative work or nourishing creative work. And it's this sort of inner depths, it's understanding ourselves, right? And the way that we are showing up in the world, which is amazing. And, to create a business from nothing with just you and your personality in it feels like probably the most creative experience that you could have, in the world, in your work, in the world. Yeah, it's very magical.
It really, really is. I absolutely love it. Like I said, what I actually discovered was that when I was an accountant, I had a lot of creative hobbies. All my hobbies ended up being creative. And since I've become an entrepreneur, I don't have those same hobbies anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a transition. So what I was doing, like I said, at the time, I didn't realize it's what I was doing.
Okay.
I wasn't like consciously going, oh, I need to have creativity. I was just instinctively finding ways to be creative. But now that where I am, I don't have those same hobbies anymore.
Right. Okay. And so was that like art making or, sewing, or what sort of creative hobbies did you have when you were on that journey?
Yeah, gardening, flowers. I used to do dinner parties, and they were like Martha Stewart dinner parties. They weren't just like flop something together. It was
Yeah.
a lot of different creative hobbies that I just don't have an interest in anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I do feel like that for myself as well. It's like a sort of a shift. I don't think it replaces kind of the creativity in my heart, so to speak, in terms of my passion for, art making, but it certainly complements it. Do you know what I mean? Like it takes
Yeah,
some of that creative yearning away. It sort of really does fill up a bucket creatively. So fully appreciate the sentiment.
it does. Yeah.
Okay, so what does your own wellness routine look like? Balancing the entrepreneurial stuff with, caring for yourself. What does it look like for you to care for yourself? And of course, does it include creativity outside of the entrepreneurial journey?
It's been a real journey, to be truthful with you. I found after leaving corporate, it's taken a few years to heal, to be truthful,
Mm.
because it was always pedal to the metal, always never looking up. It was just go, 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 go. And you can't do that being an entrepreneur. For one thing, the work never ends, right? It literally never ends. So you could literally run yourself into the ground if you continue on that path. So it's been a real learning journey for me to know when to take breaks
Mhm.
and take rest. Because what I used to do is I used to not take a break until I was tired. And that was a pattern I had for years and years and years and years. So I've had to learn to stop before I'm tired. That you don't get to rest when you're tired. Resting is actually part of the process because, and for many reasons, for my own personal well-being, but also on that level of creativity, you can't be creative when you're exhausted.
No.
So there's been so many levels this has come at me, and it's been actually quite a process of learning how to balance this out. And I'm getting there. It's taken me a while to heal from that. But my go-to creative outlet, I don't think I'll ever lose, is writing.
Okay.
Like that I always have a journal going. I'm always writing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I mean that's a really beautiful way to honor that the connection we have with ourselves as well. I think the writing process and inquiry through journaling or whatever, it's beautiful way, and actually I believe is like quite a good stimulus for that creativity. You know what I mean? Like it helps you
Yeah.
ask the questions, get curious, what's the next thing, which then sparks kind of creative curiosity and the next part of your journey. So I agree with that completely. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was a huge piece in me learning about myself.
Okay.
So when I years and years ago, when I was just starting, what I would, term my spiritual awakening years ago, I had a massive shift. That was how I learned about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just start writing and writing and writing, and I could write for pages and pages and pages each day. And that's how I discovered myself and discovered who I was. Was a lot.
So good. Okay. So for all the women who are at a career crossroads right now and maybe don't
Yeah.
feel fulfilled in their work and their life, as we've spoken about, what questions would you have them ask themselves today? And maybe do some of that journaling you just mentioned.
Yeah, certainly, absolutely. Take some time and space, first of all. I mean, that's the first thing, right? Some time away from everything else for you. Questions that you can ask yourself is, what do you really desire?
Mm.
And that is not such an easy question to ask yourself because we filter. We go into the how, we go into it's not realistic, and we go into all the stories. And so it sometimes takes a little bit of time. You write a little bit and then you go back and you write a little bit more and you think about it more and let it sit for a while. I find it is an unraveling process
Mm-hmm.
because we've disconnected from this part of ourselves so much. So
Mm.
ask yourself what you want. And that's a broad question. You could ask yourself what you like to do during the day. Like, what activities do you actually like to do? Like, if you're being really truthful, what do you want your life to look like? Because we've been trained in this culture that we pick our careers and then we mold our life around it.
Mm.
And I believe that's backwards.
Mhm.
I believe we should be picking our life and our lifestyle and everything we want, and then finding that a career that aligns with it, which is what the work that I do with people. We've got to know ourselves first. So ask what you want for your life,
That's very
period.
helpful. That's great. Yeah. It's backwards. It is completely backwards, isn't it?
It's completely backwards. I mean, a big driver for me in my business is to create online. I've been a single parent, like as I said, for most of my kids' life. They were 2 and 3 when I started raising them on my own, and they're 18 and 19 now, and I want to travel. So I want a business that I can take literally with my laptop and my phone and be off.
Okay.
Right. So I can't be in a corporate job. That's not going to support me. So think about, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Do you work better at home? Do you work better around being around people? Do you need to move throughout your
Mm.
day?
Mm.
And then another really great question, or really, this is more of it's not even so much a question, just things to think about, is to go back in your history and to look at, when were you happiest?
Yeah.
Look at what you're doing, but it's not always what you're doing. It's, what did you experience?
Yeah.
And really dig a little bit deeper, because it's not always the actual activity, but the enjoyment you got from it. So say, for example, yeah, the feeling, exactly. So say, for example, you've enjoyed coaching or being on a sports team. Say you're on like a softball team or something, right? Well, people enjoy that for different reasons. Some people might enjoy the teamwork. Some people might enjoy the physical activity. Some people might enjoy it for the competitiveness. Like, we've got to dig a little deeper as to what you actually enjoyed about that experience to understand what actually propelled you to enjoy that, what, really drew you into that activity. So that's where I would start and just get those wheels turning,
Mm.
just allow, and as to your point, like give yourself permission,
Mm.
give yourself permission to really start thinking, we don't have to tell anybody any of this.
No.
Like you can just keep it to yourself and just write it down in a book and just mull on it yourself.
Yeah, and strengthen that inner connection.
Exactly.
So with your kids then, they're at the perfect age to be jumping into jobs and careers and life. So how is the way that you are supporting them with their journeys different to your experience at a similar age?
Oh, it's completely different. So when I was their age, it was you're going to school and you've got like a choice of three careers kind of thing. Um, and their experience is definitely different. However, I'm really seeing and noticing how much the school system, I don't know how it is where you are, but certainly in Canada, how much they pressured, like, you've got to know the answer. Like, you've got to know exactly what you want to do. And I don't know, we don't know ourselves well enough at that age.
Mm.
So I've really been coaching them to have an experience. So they're both in university. My youngest is starting in September. I'm like, take a semester, sit with it. What did you like? What do you not like?
Mm.
And you don't need to know all the answers now.
No.
It will start to unfold as time goes on because what we do is we pick a path and then we stay on that path come hell or high water.
Mm.
And then we miss all the joy, all the other opportunities that might have been better for us. But we're so intent on following that one path that we miss everything else around us.
Yeah. And it's often not for ourselves. It's for our generation, for our parents and for society and for all of ticking all the boxes, of being successful or whatever. I mean, my daughter's 12. And so she's just at the age now where they're starting to get some freedom in the subjects that they choose as they sort of move on their journey. And my encouragement to her is, what did you like doing? Which things, made you feel happy when you were in the classroom? Which is a completely contrasting experience. My parents would have always been, well, that's very sensible and that's gonna get you, you're smart enough to do this, you should do it, rather than what you truly enjoy. So very different experience.
Very different. And you know what I find so fascinating? Because I was the same way. It was what's going to get you a good job, what's stable, what's going to be secure, right? And the amazing thing is the more you love something, usually the better you're at, and people are actually drawn to you. When we see somebody miserable in a job, I mean, you can tell, and they don't ever advance as far. And this is a big piece that I believe we're missing. So many people are afraid to move. And I always say, we often put too much emphasis on the risk of taking a move, not realizing the risk of staying where we're at. Because if we're not happy where we're at, we're actually not going to progress. We're just not. We're going to stagnate. And people are scared about their income. And, certainly, obviously, money has to be consideration if you're making a career change or pivot of some sort. However, there's the illusion that if I stay where I am, it's all going to be amazing. But if you hate it, your boss can tell.
Well,
Exactly. And yeah, not to mention what it's doing to your health and everything else. But we have this illusion like we're safer where we're at. However, when we love something, a whole different ballgame.
in my experience, it's also it's what you enjoy, and also this understanding that you can get better at something, like this growth mindset, right? So like it doesn't matter if you enjoy it and you're not great now, you can become great if you apply yourself. And I think that was kind of a missing link from, my education. So like you're either good at it or you're not,
Yeah.
Now, if you didn't start off with, some incredible ability in a particular area, which I find fascinating because they're actually taught that in schools now, this growth mindset, which is
Interesting. I don't know if my kids are being taught that, but that's very true because I picked accounting because I was good at math. Really, like that was it.
To use the logical side of brain equals
lifelong career.
Yeah. Thing. I mean, that's kind of how I fell into accounting as well, is because I was smart enough to do it. And when I was sort of at a crossroads, I was sort of like, should I do teaching or should I do accounting? And there's more job prospects if you do accounting. Actually, I probably would have been happier as a teacher.
Probably could have been more creative, that's for sure. Yeah, no, it's very true. And thankfully it's changing now. And I'm just glad I'm here for my daughters. I'm truly grateful that they've got me to bounce off because I do see the pressure they have here, certainly to pick a career with a good job prospect. It's still out there.
Yeah. Definitely. There's a lot of pressure still on the academics, definitely.
Yeah.
So how can people get to know you better, Andrea, and get a feel for the work that you do?
Well, a great way to connect with me is my website, andreahorvath.com. And I've got the links to all my socials there. And today I actually launched a brand new podcast, which just like literally today.
Nice.
So it's called The Soulful Shift.
Amazing.
So I just launched that today. It's on Spotify and Apple now. So if you want to check that out, that would be awesome. I've got 2 whole episodes loaded now, but my main platforms are Facebook and LinkedIn, and those are linked on my website. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Andrea. It's lovely talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sam.
If you'd like to receive 3 actionable creative wellness tips personalized to your circumstances that you can implement easily straight away, head on over and take my free quiz at samhorton.co/quiz.